This is On Hand, a podcast that answers all your questions about Michigan things. I'm April Baer. Our last episode was all about the history of Michigan's Coney Island restaurants and the Coney dogs themselves. I gotta say, doing this reporting for you, I am stuffed. As we were traveling around to some of your favorite spots, it was impossible to miss that half of the appeal of the Coney is the people that you find there. I mean, it's world-class people watching, but sometimes it's also so much more. The lives playing out at the tables of Michigan Coneys contain all kinds of stories and surprises. That's what drew our listener Tim Retzloff to them when he was growing up in Flint.
Oh, they were absolutely multi-generational and just kind of every kind of spectrum of Flint society. You know, you'd see someone who might have worked in a bank, and you'd see shop rats, and you'd see college students and high school students, and you'd see, grandparents out. And what I remember distinctly in terms of personal family, so Angelo's was down the road from Brown Funeral Home. And I remember family visitations and viewings where we would be there all day greeting people coming for the visitation. And our break was always, we'd walk down to Angelo's.
The funeral was at Brown, the wake was at Angelo's.
Exactly.
Tim and I met up at Sparty's Coney, which is in Lansing. Tim is all grown up now and teaches history in East Lansing at Michigan State. So when young man Tim was hanging around at Angelo's, in addition to eating Coneys and maybe having a slice of pie, what else were you doing?
There were a couple of things. I often went with friends and people watch, but it was also kind of a place I would go, not unlike a coffee houses today, where I would go and write. I've kept a journal since I was 16, and I would always note where I was writing from. And so oftentimes if I was writing from Angelo's, I might start out by doing a description of, what was around me.
You brought a stack of composition books to meet up today. Are these actually the original journals?
These are my original journals.
What's in them? Would you read for us a little bit?
I would be delighted to read some snippets from it. So 7/26/87, 9:16 p.m., Angelo's. I'm in the front part rather than my preferred spot in the back room, which was closed when I came in. A droopy-eyed kid in a faded, sleeveless Aerosmith shirt gets my attention for a second as he shakes his finger in his ear, trying to clear it or get something out. Waitresses call out their orders from across the room. Put me on 2 cheeseburgers, 2 fries. I need a chili. They move about blankly, filling water glasses, carrying orders to eagerly waiting coffers. My waitress is in her early 20s, a chirpy blonde with a front tooth missing, carrying an aura of concealed sadness. A row of ketchup bottles and napkin dispensers sit neatly before the scraggly men at the counter. This is all worth celebrating. This is Flint. Oh boy. And oh boy. 7:30:88, 10 to midnight, Angelo's. The waitress and her cronies, not conies, cronies, think I'm nuts. Along with my cheeseburger, I have a cup of coffee, a Pepsi, and a malt. To keep me awake, to cover the taste, and for dessert, respectively.
Tim, the late night Coney. I mean, that's the shift that matters, right?
Absolutely. Well, and it was a different place depending on the time of day you were there. So this is January 14th, 90, 3:05 p.m., Angelo's. You like ketchup on your pacifier? I heard a waitress asking a baby in the other room. They were talking about the sweet and low getting swiped and how the racks should be taken out at cleaning time and first ship could put them back out. The place is unusually slow now. This young gal who used to work at the newer downtown Halo Burger looks like Mediterranean stock with full snow white lips, asking this fellow in the booth in front of mine how he got his injured eye. Why'd you get into a fight? When you drink 2 cases of beer, you don't much care who you fight.
I mean, the guy probably wasn't kidding.
No, I don't think he was kidding. I mean, this is Flint, so there's a roughness to it, but it was also kind of, again, this gathering spot. This is 4/7/92, 8:40 p.m., Angelo's. 3 women at a table across from me to my left have an air of class, in the smart black pantsuit of one, in the lavender skirt and blouse of the other, in their sassy haircuts, rings, earrings, and bracelets, and mostly shown in the thin brown cigarettes smoked by 2 of them. I overheard the blonde saying, "I'd rather be in a restaurant than a funeral home," to a jocular man she must have just seen down at Brown's. My friend Patrick said, well, they should have been 3 distinctions at Angelo's. Non-smoking, smoking, and chain smoking.
Like a different room for each of us.
Right.
Tim Retzloff. He lives in Lansing. I'm trying to talk him into doing something with those old Coney journals. If you own a small printing press and you're listening, please drop us a line. Something kind of amazing happened later that day after Tim and I met up. Later that evening, all full of Coney dogs, I went to a reading by Patti Smith, the poet, the priestess of punk, the all-around rock star and sometime Michigander. In her latest book, Bread of Angels, she tells the story about the day she met her husband, the late Fred Sonic Smith, who played in Detroit's own MC5. This is a couple that made some of the most meaningful music of their generation. Fell in love, got married, and moved to Michigan to have kids. It's one of the great love stories in rock and roll. And in the book, she writes, in 1976, she was on this trip to play a show in Detroit. And this is how she sets it up. The crew left for the Ford Auditorium to set up our equipment, and the rest of us went straight to a welcome party hosted by the Detroit musician community at, okay, wait for it, Lafayette, Coney Island. You have to read the rest of the story the way she tells it in the book. That fleeting moment that Smith says was to redirect the whole of her life. And it happened at one of our legacy Coneys. We so appreciate the wonderful comments that you sent us about Coney Islands in your life. Listener Blaine Tellender wrote in, "My wife and I have raised 4 kids over the past 36 years, and we've shared more meals between National and Call's Place than anywhere else except our own dinner table. You can all argue about which place is better, but we'll just continue to be grateful for the sense of home, community, and place these establishments have brought to our lives." Steve Warden writes in, "I grew up in Chelsea. Much of our shopping was done in Jackson. Totoroff's was always our favorite." He adds, "I still subscribe to the story that Jackson was the original home of Coney dogs. I don't care what they say." And he says, one time his mom was on a visit after retiring up north and the family went to Jackson. They stop at Totoroff's and find out it's the last day the restaurant was open because the owner was retiring. Ugh, the feels. And finally this from listener Penny Clute. "I grew up in Michigan but have lived in Plattsburgh, New York since 1978 in the northeast corner of the state. A specialty food here is called the Michigan hot dog or just the Michigan. It seems to be essentially a Coney without beans, introduced here by a Michigan couple almost 100 years ago. It's sold in seasonal stands and year-round diners." Penny notes these Coneys are so popular in Plattsburgh, there's even a Michigan Fest in the summers where people eat Coney dogs all weekend long. If you have a story about road tripping to eat Michigan food, or euchre tournaments, or Michigan craft beer, we long to hear it. There's an easy link to share your story in this episode's show notes, or you can just email us, onhand@michiganpublic.org. I'm April Bear. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, stay spicy.